Welcome back to our channel. This is the part 2 of our interesting story. In this part, we will see what happened at the end. Stay tuned and let's get into the story. The rainy season arrived heavily in Abadoma. Dark clouds covered the skies for days, and the once busy roads became rivers of mud. Inside the palace compound, Chibuzo sat alone staring at papers spread across the table. Debt notices, unpaid balances, business losses. His hands trembled badly. Everything was collapsing. The transport business Adaeze helped him build with sweat and sacrifice was dying slowly. One driver disappeared with money. Another motorcycle caught fire mysteriously. Customers stopped trusting him. Within months, most of his wealth vanished. Yet Princess Onyeka showed no sympathy. Instead, her insults became sharper. "You are becoming useless," she snapped one evening. "What kind of man loses everything this quickly?" Chibuzo lowered his head silently. Those words reminded him painfully of someone else, Adaeze. But unlike the princess, Adaeze never insulted him during poverty. Not once. One sleepless night, Chibuzo walked outside during heavy rain. The palace guards watched silently as he wandered through the compound looking troubled. For the first time in years, tears gathered in his eyes. He remembered the small mud house in Umuochi, the peaceful evenings, the way Adaeze waited for him with warm food no matter how tired she was. He remembered the day she handed him her secret savings. Back then, her hands were rough from hard labor, yet she smiled while giving him everything she had. And what did he give her in return? Pain, humiliation, abandonment. Chibuzo covered his face as guilt consumed him. But regret is cruel. It usually arrives when it is already too late. As Chibuzo's wealth disappeared, Princess Onyeka changed completely. The sweetness she once showed him vanished. One afternoon during an argument, she laughed bitterly. "Did you really think I married you because I loved you?" Chibuzo stared at her in shock. Onyeka rolled her eyes. "You were useful then. You had money and popularity. Now look at you." Those words pierced deeply. For the first time, Chibuzo understood the difference between love and selfish desire. Adaeze loved him when he had nothing. Princess Onyeka loved only comfort and status. That evening, Chibuzo sat alone for hours thinking about his choices. His chest felt unbearably heavy. Soon, rumors of Chibuzo's financial problems reached the king. The king hated weakness, especially in a man married into royalty. One morning, palace guards summoned Chibuzo before the royal court. The king's face looked cold with disappointment. "I gave you honor," the king said firmly, "but all I hear now is failure." Chibuzo tried explaining his business problems, but the king interrupted angrily. "A real man protects wealth. He does not destroy it." The humiliation burned deeply. Servants whispered about him afterward. Even palace workers stopped respecting him. The same man who once walked proudly now avoided eye contact everywhere he went. Karma was slowly stripping away his pride piece by piece. Meanwhile, back in Umuochi, Adaeze was trying to rebuild her life. The pain remained. Some nights she still cried herself to sleep. But slowly, she began healing. The village women supported her greatly. Mama Nkem helped her start a small food business near the market square. At first, Adaeze struggled emotionally, but her kindness continued attracting people naturally. Customers loved her humility. Travelers stopped often to eat her delicious soup and roasted fish. Gradually, her business grew, and for the first time since the betrayal, Adaeze smiled genuinely again. Not because life became perfect, but because she was finally learning something important. A broken heart can still survive. One evening, Chibuzo suddenly collapsed inside the palace. Servants rushed to help him as his body shook violently with fever. For days, his condition worsened. Different herbalists were called. Nothing worked. Princess Onyeka barely visited him. She complained more about embarrassment than his health. "This situation is disturbing the palace," she grumbled. As Chibuzo lay weak on the bed, memories flooded his mind constantly. Adaeze caring for him during old sicknesses. Adaeze staying awake through the night praying beside him. Adaeze feeding him with her own hands when he could barely move. Tears rolled slowly down his cheeks. Now he understood. True love is not measured during comfort. It is revealed during suffering. One morning, Chibuzo woke to terrible news. Princess Onyeka had traveled away with another wealthy man from the city. At first, He refused to believe it, but servants confirmed everything quietly. The princess had abandoned him completely, just like he once abandoned Adaeze. The pain nearly destroyed him. For hours, he sat alone staring into emptiness. The palace suddenly felt colder than ever before, and deep inside, Chibuzo realized a cruel truth. He had traded genuine love for temporary luxury, and now he had nothing left. Weeks later, thin and broken, Chibuzo returned to Umuochi. The villagers barely recognized him. His expensive clothes were gone. His face looked tired and ashamed. People whispered as he walked slowly through the village roads he once mocked. Children stared curiously. Some villagers turned away angrily. Others simply pitied him. Finally, Chibuzo stopped in front of Adaeze's small food shop. She looked up slowly and froze. Silence filled the air immediately. Chibuzo's eyes became wet. Adaeze's heart beat painfully inside her chest. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then softly, very softly, Chibuzo whispered, "I destroyed my own life." Adaeze stared at the man she once loved with all her heart. The proud man who abandoned her for wealth was gone. Standing before her now was only a broken soul carrying the weight of his own mistakes. And suddenly, Adaeze did not feel hatred anymore, only sadness. Deep, painful sadness. The evening breeze moved softly through Umuochi as villagers watched from a distance. Nobody had ever imagined seeing Chibuzo like this. Broken, thin, ashamed. The same man who once walked proudly beside royalty now stood before Adaeze like a stranger abandoned by life itself. Adaeze remained silent behind her food stall. Her hands trembled slightly. Too many memories were fighting inside her heart at once. Pain, love, betrayal, pity. Chibuzo slowly fell to his knees. Gasps spread among the villagers nearby. "Adaeze," he whispered weakly, "please forgive me." Tears filled his eyes immediately. "I was blind. I forgot the woman who stood beside me when I had nothing." Adaeze's chest tightened painfully. Hearing those words reopened wounds she had struggled for months to heal. "You destroyed me," she said quietly. Chibuzo lowered his head in shame. "I know. You called me nobody important." His tears fell faster. "I regret it every day." The silence between them felt heavy like rain clouds before a storm. That night, the entire village discussed Chibuzo's return. Some people mocked him openly. Others said karma had punished him exactly as he deserved. Old Mama Nkem sat beside Adaeze outside her hut later that evening. "My daughter," the old woman said gently, "life has already judged him." Adaeze stared quietly into the darkness. "But why does my heart still hurt?" she whispered. Mama Nkem sighed softly. "Because love does not disappear overnight. Even wounded hearts remember." Adaeze wiped her tears slowly. For months she had imagined this moment. She thought seeing Chibuzo suffer would make her happy. But instead, she only felt tired. The betrayal had changed her deeply. And some pains never fully leave the soul. The next morning, Chibuzo returned again. This time he looked even weaker. Adaeze allowed him sit beneath the mango tree outside her shop while villagers pretended not to watch. For a long time, he remained quiet. Then finally he spoke. "Princess Onyeka never loved me." Adaeze said nothing. "She loved money and status. The moment my wealth disappeared, I became worthless to her." His voice shook painfully. "I understand everything now." Adaeze looked at him carefully. "You understood too late." Chibuzo nodded slowly. "Yes." Tears gathered in his eyes again. "When I was poor, you protected me. When I failed, you encouraged me. When I was hungry, you starved so I could eat." His voice broke completely. "And I repaid you with cruelty." Adaeze looked away quickly as tears filled her own eyes. Because despite everything, part of her still remembered the man she once loved before pride destroyed him. Days later, the elders of Umuochi called a village meeting. Everyone gathered beneath the large udala tree at the center of the village. The oldest elder spoke first. "Chibuzo has brought shame upon this village through greed and wickedness." Murmurs of agreement spread immediately. The elder continued, "But suffering has already humbled him." He then turned toward Adaeze. "My daughter, the decision now belongs to you. Do you wish to take him back as your husband?" The entire village became silent. All eyes turned toward Adaeze. Even Chibuzo held his breath nervously. Adaeze stood slowly. For a moment, emotions filled her chest so heavily she could barely speak. Then quietly she said, I forgive him. Relief flooded Chibuzo's face instantly. But before he could smile fully, Adaeze continued, but forgiveness does not erase what happened. The smile disappeared immediately. Tears rolled down Chibuzo's face again. Adaeze's own voice trembled painfully. You broke something inside me that can never return to the way it was. Silence covered the gathering heavily. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. That evening, Chibuzo visited Adaeze one last time. The sunset painted the village sky orange and gold as they stood outside quietly. I understand your decision, Chibuzo said softly. Adaeze nodded silently. For the first time in many months, there was no anger in her eyes. Only peace. Painful peace. I truly loved you, Chibuzo whispered. Adaeze smiled sadly. I know, and I will regret losing you for the rest of my life. A tear rolled down Adaeze's cheek, because deep inside, she knew he was telling the truth. But some mistakes carry permanent consequences. Love can forgive, yet trust, once destroyed completely, is difficult to rebuild. Slowly, Adaeze spoke the words that finally ended their story. The woman who once waited for you is gone. Chibuzo closed his eyes painfully, because he knew she was right. The innocent woman who sacrificed everything for love no longer existed. His betrayal had changed her forever. Months passed peacefully in Umuochi. Adaeze's food business continued growing successfully. Travelers from nearby villages came often just to eat her meals. Her laughter slowly returned. Not the careless laughter of her younger years, but the stronger laughter of a woman who survived heartbreak and still found reasons to live. Meanwhile, Chibuzo left Umuochi quietly. Some said he traveled far away searching for work. Others said he became a changed man who spent his days helping struggling people. Nobody knew the full truth anymore. But one thing became certain throughout every nearby village. People never forgot Adaeze's story. Mothers told their daughters about her strength. Elders used her story to teach young men about loyalty and gratitude. And whenever prideful people mocked those who helped them during difficult times, villagers would simply say, remember Chibuzo of Umuochi, because karma may walk slowly, but it never forgets any road. Thank you all for watching this interesting story. Like, share, subscribe for more interesting story.